Okay, let's see if this works. Yes, okay. Sorry, it was the I had the wrong live stream key in OBS, but I'm with you now. Hello. I actually messed up my printing that I was just doing. I've been printing out the subclasses. As we see, we've got the latest subclass package number 4, which includes the College of Spirits Bard and the Undead Patron Warlock, which are very exciting and I think are tied in with the Icewind Dale thing. Also, what else did we have? We had subclasses revisited with the Phantom Rogue, with the Whales of the Grave and all that sort of stuff. And what's this one? Genie's Vessel. This is the Warlock with a Genie patron. And what else did we have? The Order of Scribes Wizard, which I was quite excited about. But before that, let's see. Package number 3. We had a mind-altering... We've got the Fey Wanderer Ranger. We've got the Circle of Stars Druid. We've got Artificer Infusions for the Artificer. Yeah. Which got everybody quite excited. And subclasses. Part 1 was Path of the Beast Barbarian. And we had the Way of Mercy Monk. The Oath of Watchers Paladin. The Noble Genie... Oh, I see. So they must have adjusted the Genie Warlock. Then we had the College of Creation Bard. The Unity Domain Cleric. The Clockwork Soul Sorcerer. And yeah, it's been an interesting package. Hey, thanks, Jericho. Yeah, the 2 new subclasses for the undead sort of school are quite interesting, and I like the way they're going with these subclasses. They're very nuanced, and they fit into certain sort of niches that need to that I think people are interested to play. What's the best thing I can do with a unicorn pelt? Well, a unicorn pelt isn't inherently magical. It basically is like a very, very fine goat pelt. So it's like a cross between a goat and a horse, is what their pelt is like. The horn is of course very dangerous to have because a lot of people will kill you for having unicorn horn because you've killed a beautiful creature of light. But the pelt itself, I don't know. It could possibly be a magical component for some sort of plane shifting spell. I don't know. Or maybe you turn it into a scroll. Hey Steve, I'm doing well, thank you. No, I don't think they're coming out with a new Libris Mortis Azeroth. An undead patron, doesn't it also want you to be undead? Yeah, maybe. It's interesting. I mean, it's patient. All things are going to die eventually. Yeah, Clockwork Sorcerer, Clockwork Soul Sorcerer. I'm also not too sure about eating unicorn either. It could be poisonous to good creatures, to evil creatures. Frozen ghosts. Yeah, well, Mike Mills was, of course, he was very obsessed with edgy type characters. He loved his edgy characters. He's been heavily involved in video game development for the past few months, and I think he might be getting back into the print side of things, but I'm not entirely sure. Of course, Twitter absolutely hates Mike Mills at the moment, so he may be laying low or just going into another branch of the company. It's a corporate entity after all, so he's got many options for branching into different aspects of game development. Doesn't necessarily have to be on the public-facing side of things. No, my copy of Border Kingdoms has not arrived yet, Emil. Hopefully it will. Would I ever consider doing a collab with Runesmith? He does D&D lore as well, but in a more humorous way. Yeah, sure. I'm totally up with doing collabs with people. Yeah, the Spirit Bard looks really interesting. They are very interesting takes on things. I'm quite looking forward to playing some of them. Imagine an unawakened undead spirits bard. What's my favourite nation from the Bronze Age? Um, Well, I like sort of paleo Neolithic England because it was quite interesting. I'd love to go back and see when they were building Stonehenge and what was going on back then, because that would have required an enormous amount of coordination between a very sparse population when you think about it. Like, the population of people on the planet back then was a lot lower than it is now. So there must have been some extraordinarily charismatic leaders who were compelling everybody to work together to make these stone circles and things. Like, there's a lot going on there. Of course, I'd need a crash course on the language. Twitter hates everyone. Yeah, it's only a matter of time before they hate me too, I'm sure. It's like, what did I do? Yeah, I've played my fair share of edgy characters. A Dracolich patron. Well, that's where getting into the cult of the dragon. The cult of the dragon, of course, believes that undead dragons or dead dragons will rule the world, and they work to make sure that that happens. So the cult of the dragon is quite often stealing a lot of gold and gems and things to add to the hordes of undead dragons. The undead is basically Talion from Shadow of Mordor. Oh, I've actually got that video game now. I can actually play Shadow of Mordor and figure out what you guys are talking about. Yeah, Benjamin, that's true. With the Harry Potter lore, the consuming the blood of a unicorn, which actually looks like mercury in that, is quite disgusting. Yeah, but in Dungeons and Dragons, unicorns are a bit different. But I mean, you can make unicorns like Harry Potter unicorns if you want to. Do I have any thoughts on the Spirit Bard? Well, I'm just printing it out now so I can really look at it. Let's have a look. College of Spirits Bard. Stories of the past are powerful. They hold lessons of history, philosophy, and magic. Bards of the College of Spirits seek the stories of those from beyond the material plane. Using gaming sets, they reach out to hear their stories, but the bards have no control over what story they find. Using gaming sets, you can reach out to spirits to guide you. What? Oh, I see. So they're talking about using crystal balls and tarot cards and stuff. So this is more like a divination, contacting. Like, this is the thump under the table if you can hear me sort of bard. Madame Vlotska, bards, spirit guide from the beyond. Blah blah. You reach out to spirits who tell you their stories through you. So this is a seance bard. Okay. Level 6, you can channel spirits to gain insight into magic. You can conduct an hour-long ritual channeling spirits using your spiritual focus. You can conduct the ritual with a number of creatures equal to your proficiency. So this is literally the Ouija board seance bard. How does that... That's nowhere near as exciting as it sounds. So you get the guidance cantrip, and at 3rd level you can use different objects as a spellcasting focus. At 3rd level you get a sort of a ritual where you get these different boosts depending on what sort of creature you're talking to. Yeah, that's far less interesting than I thought. Okay. Undead Patron Warlock, expanded spell list, so they basically get an undead domain. Interesting. Form of Dread, 1st level. They gain temporary hit points. Okay, that's useful. They can frighten creatures that they hit, and they're immune to the frightened condition. Okay, that makes them way more useful than a seance bard. Grave touched. Okay, so the Warlock looks really interesting. The Bard looks like a sack of shit. Okay. The Bard is basically an NPC class. I can't see that being any use to a player character whatsoever. You've come to believe that there was an advanced civilization on Earth long before our 4000 BC ones we know of. I mean, they didn't leave much of an impact, did they? Speaking of books, how do you deal with damaged books? I actually repair them with PVA glue. And I also bind my printed out manuscripts using PVA glue in the old school style. A seance bard or a charlatan bard, yeah. What do you call a smelly horseman? A centaur. Trying to think of 3 unique abilities bestowed to an evil Skaven druid. Oh, I'd love for there to be a Skaven race for 5th edition. Wise God, Incalbulos, Famine, Plague, and Death. Thinking Rat, Plague, Death themed. Any suggestions? Well, being immune to disease is a good one. Being able to spread contagion by touch after a short ritual, then being able to basically channel a particular contagion that you can then like dip your finger into the water supply of the town, or touch somebody's food, or even touch them personally and infuse a poison that would normally be like an ingested poison or a cut wound type poison. And what would a third one be? Being able to detect and neutralize poison, of course, and diseases would be really handy. And a natural for a Skaven druid. So a Skaven druid being able to masquerade as somebody who, like, they disguise themselves and they come in under the guise of somebody who can cure disease, when in actual fact they're able to inflict disease just as well. Divination is there's definite ways to deal with divination in your game. One of the things is you create imagery that point the player characters in the right direction in the game. So essentially, when they are doing the divination, the spirit or guide or medium or whatever will show them images like a red flag blowing easterly in the wind, and they're looking around, and as they progress in the game, then you just say, oh, there's a red flag blowing easterly in the wind in that direction, and it literally railroads the direction of the game. So players who are using divination are giving you permission to give them direct clues to where to go in the game, instead of having to ask NPCs and figure out clues and all this sort of stuff. So it can really track your game very quickly from encounter location to encounter location, essentially. So it's almost like you're dealing with divination, travel, and encounters. And then there's complications along the way. So don't be scared of divination. Divination is a tool that you can use in your storytelling and narrative. And as I say, you do that with the players have an expectation that divination is going to be useful for their characters to find exactly where they need to go. That's the whole point. So it's completely under your control. Thanks, Melfazar. Greetings, AJ. Here's a donation for the Mead Fund. Just tried my cherry mead last night. Freaking delicious. Excellent. I'm so glad I'm spreading the happy word of bees amongst everybody. Oh, by the way, I wanted to point out to a role-playing group that I'm dealing with at the moment that I am actually growing turnips. Now, this is actually a Chinese radish, but it's close enough to a turnip. It sort of blurs the line a little bit. Freaky looking thing, isn't it? Huge, delicious, very mild turnip / radish type flavour on this thing. But just going to show that, yeah, there was a lot of turnips in our game, and I was getting triggered because I've been dealing with turnip smell a lot, and the descriptions of turnip stew and stuff in the game were a little bit much. Hey, I typed out earlier, but you seem to might have missed it. I watched both RuneSmith and you as my primary source of D&D DM support. I haven't thanked you yet, but thanks. Nice stream. Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to collab with RuneSmith. Does LTAP have a plan for escaping from his prison? Essentially, he can't leave the material plane, so he's still got an abyssal layer that nobody else has claimed yet, as far as I know, and he's active on the prime material plane. But I can't talk much about that because I don't really want to give away spoilers from the Great Dale sourcebook. But yeah, LTAB is quite active, and his cult is very active as well. LTAB doesn't really need to move around a lot. All demons really need to do is be able to pass on some element of their power to cultists and talk to them, and they can do their evil deeds on the prime material plane. Turnip mead sounds horrible. Yeah, no, that would be awful. Hello, Mr. Pickett. How do you adapt a variant crawling head that instead of being dissolved by water needs to stay in water or begins to crumple to dust? Crawling head. You got me there. Is that a... I'm not familiar with that one. Instead of being dissolved by water, it needs to stay in water or begins to crumble to dust. Basically make it a pickled head. So it's pickled. It needs to stay in its jar of pickle, otherwise it dries out and loses its animation. So some sort of undead necro fluid that a creature needs to have around it in order to animate its corpse. So that'd be an interesting branch of undead, actually. So necrotic fluid, some sort of vile ichor that the undead needs to continue flow through it, and it needs to be recharged with evil, essentially. Hey, Dark Horse. The turnip salesman. Yeah. It does look a little bit like a mandrake. Yeah, a little bit off. It's got these tendrils and stuff, but it sort of grows down one main branch. It's a very easy plant to grow. The Chinese have been growing vegetables for thousands of years, and they do it very well. They're very hardy, and they grow in a vast number of different conditions. Look at the table the Spirit Bard gets to roll on. Yeah. Where is it? Mm-hmm. You utter an incomprehensible fable from a being beyond the stars. Choose a creature you see within 30 feet of you. The target must succeed on an intelligence saving throw or take psychic damage equal to 3 rolls on your bardic inspiration die. And the target is unable to speak any language for 1 minute. So does this require, how long does you reach out to spirits? Use a bonus action to expend one of your bardic inspiration points. Oh, I see. So these are abilities that you can use just at random. Sort of. You held your spirit focus, and a creature within 30 feet of you can be targeted by the Tales from Beyond. Yeah, it's like they tacked that on there to make it a viable adventuring class. But really, it's kind of one-trick pony. Yeah. Thanks, Jimmy. Put that head in a magical mech suit. Now we've got a story. Yeah. Exactly. This root plant is a radish. It's a Chinese radish. There's a Chinese variety and there's the Japanese variety. The Japanese variety are green and white, and the Chinese are pure white. It's not a daikon. It's not a daikon radish, but it's similar. That weird lemon-looking fruit? So what's your view on Warforged? Thanks, Dark Horse. And what classes work best for them, do you reckon? Warforged, I think, work for any class. They are living beings, and I think some of the more exotic sort of things, like a Warforged has got a core of wood, for instance, so they work as a druid. And it's like a Groot with cybernetics is what a Warforged is like, right? So you could almost think that they're like a plant-like being that's walking around with these, again, alchemical fluids and stuff which form their blood. So it's artificial, but it's also, you can see how it works sort of thing. And they wear clothing and armor and all that sort of stuff as well. But they're really interesting. And it's more to me about the Warforged's experience of being designed for a specific purpose and no longer having that purpose, and rethinking what it wants to do in life, and discovering that friendship is magic and there's more to life than war and stuff like that. So they can have that, like, Tin Man, I don't really have a heart, I'm an artificial being. It's like, no, you do have a soul. And they just go, I've got a soul? I'm going to an afterlife? So like a Warforged cleric and things like that. It's quite interesting. Wow, thanks, Devilham. Devilham writes, hey AJ, in the real world, many people who claim to be religious have caused great destruction. How would you play an evil high priest character of a good domain god, and how would he maintain his power connection to his deity? That's pretty good. Like, one of the things that the Harpers in Forgotten Realms work against is organisations that get too big for their britches. Essentially, they start impinging on the freedoms of others in order to expand their interests. So you've got a lot of like law and justice type religions in the Forgotten Realms and in other settings as well, where they impose law and order on others and they trample on their culture and traditional beliefs in the process. So it becomes exploitive. They twist the law to their own purposes, and it's all about their ego and what they want to achieve and where they want to expand into, and they use that banner of good and justice in order to quell any opposition. So essentially, I'm doing the right thing, I'm on the side of right and good, and anybody who opposes me is, a rebel, a malcontent, an anarchist, an order of chaos, an agent of chaos against the good, and how can I possibly be wrong, sort of thing. When in actual fact, it's their ego, their arrogance, and their will and their drive to control others that is driving them. So they wear that banner of good as a disguise. Hey, welcome to Bronze Dragon, Joel. Michael Jacobson, thank you. Hey AJ, have you seen and do you think, what do I think of the new Sapphire Dragon mini for the 45th anniversary, or what do you feel about the Lionel race? I'm quite keen on the Lionel race. That's got a really good place in the Shah, in the Forgotten Realms, in the Eastern Shah, and also Mazdaca, and the jungles of Chult, for instance, is a good place for Lionels to come from. Possibly even the Great Wastes would have some sort of a saber-toothed tiger type Lionels who are adapted to the cold and stuff. So, or they could be coming from another continent. They could be coming over from Osi even, or some of the other continents, or Ankarome, or some of the other places in the Forgotten Realms. So they could be offshore invaders who arrive on ships and things. As for the Sapphire Dragons, I'm not that keen on the miniature myself. I like the more sort of traditional style. They're okay. Also, I'm not that keen on the miniatures that Matt Colville came out with when he was doing the Kickstarter for Strongholds and Followers. Seems sort of a weird juxtaposition to have them coming out with the book, but it's everybody's got their own personal wants and needs. Whoa, thanks Jericho. Just a big super chat. Thank you very much. Oh, I missed a few comments there. What am I planning on doing this week? This week I want to get a couple of videos out as quickly as possible, because this weekend I'm going on holiday. So next weekend, or this coming weekend, I won't, or next weekend for those of you who's like, it's Saturday over there I think, I'm going to where I used to live back in my home city to go to my friend's birthday. Ian, Red No Blue, is having a birthday, and so I'm going to go to his birthday party and hang out in Hamilton for a weekend. So I won't be live streaming that weekend. So this week I'm not entirely sure. I've got some viewer requests which I want to get around to, because I've sort of been doing the Undead and the Dragons and Giants a lot lately. So I want to get stuck into some of these requests, including like Talisman of Good and Evil, the Zygodact, Pool of Radiance, Hellfire Worms. So I'll just have a look through and see what strikes my fancy. Might even do something on Zastam, who knows? You never know. So it's going to be a grab bag of viewer requests this week. We are playing Strahd, and one of my players is trying to convince the Were-Ravens to give him the curse. Should I or shouldn't I give it to him? How would you, like, if you've got a clear path that you can handle that in the game that you can think of, then for sure, go for it. If you can think of a way of making it fun for a player character. Otherwise, becoming a were creature is kind of like, that's your ticket out of that being a playable character, because you've turned into a monster essentially. Were ravens are interesting because they're quite intelligent, so you might want to keep them in the game with those extra abilities and stuff. But how would the other were ravens feel about a new member of the flock sort of thing? Would they see them as a rival if they don't join with their causes? You know, because were ravens have got to have some sort of complex pecking order for sure. Pecking order. So Warforged are like Helmed Horror, they lived long enough to develop a personality. No, they've got a soul. That Golarion symbol on their head is a true name, which is etched on there. So their soul expresses this Golarion symbol that comes through on their forehead, and they actually have a soul. So they're not like just a magical creature that has intelligence like an AI. They actually have a soul which is sort of stolen from primordial force and put in them. So when they die, they actually go to the afterlife and reincarnate as a petitioner. So it's possible to have petitioners on the outer planes that were originally warforged. Question is, do they still look artificial, or are they something else? Welcome to Gold Dragon, Michael. Thank you. How do I keep my goatee so well kept? It actually grows this way. All I do is trim it. It doesn't, this bit doesn't grow, really. This is it. This is my face. So your bronze dragon, do you get to act all self-righteous if you want to? Let's have a look at this Undeath Warlock, shall we? Where are we? Let's see. Spirit Projection. That's cool. That's Doctor Strange in a nutshell. Mortal Husk. Your connection to undeath and necrotic energy now saturates your body. You have resistance to necrotic damage. You are transformed using your form of dread. You instead become immune to necrotic damage. So essentially, you become a living revenant. I like this. In addition, you have reached when you've reduced to 0 hit points, you can cause your body to explode. Each creature within 30 feet takes necrotic damage equals to 2d10 plus your warlock level. You can then revive with 1 hit point in your previous space, along with your gear, and you gain 1 level of exhaustion. Once you've revived this way, you can do so again. So you become Spawn, essentially. So you're infusing yourself with necrotic energy and becoming a hellspawn. I like it. Grave touched. Don't need to eat, drink, or breathe. So you're surviving on necrotic energy. You're Spawn. You're Spawn, essentially. The comic book character Spawn. I'm okay with this. Warlocks should be like warlocks and sorcerers are basically superheroes, right? Any experience with evil parties saving the world? They kind of do it by mistake, by accident. So if you lead them down the path through their selfish interests, so if you have it that the big bads are basically insulting them personally or impinging on their desire to run a thieves guild or get ahead personally, then evil parties will be motivated to take out other evil parties because they're stepping on their turf. Spawn! Eat them worms. Any tips on role-playing a Kenku thief without ending up irritating the rest of the party, thinking of it being my next character? Kenku don't necessarily need to be like Bumblebee from the Transformers with, constantly blurting out nonsensical phrases and stuff. They don't need to parrot and mimic people that are talking and things. They can use sign language and stuff, or use illustrations, and they can gesture and point and things like that just as well as anybody else. So they don't necessarily need to be babbling constantly. And Kenku are smart enough to realize that would piss people off. They don't understand that what the Kenku's thought processes are like. So yeah. Not willingly usually get tricked into it. Yeah, exactly. So evil characters can be tricked into saving the world. Superman would be a Yellow Sun Warlock then. Yeah, Radiance Warlock. Radiance Sorcerer, maybe? I don't know. He can fly. He can shoot radiant beams out of his eyes, which is essentially Witch Bolt. He's super strong and stuff, so he uses, ability enhancement. Wile E. Coyote signs. Yeah, exactly. Hey, thanks, Michael. Yeah, I was good since the start. Somehow I lost it. Anyhow, how do you feel about friends giving their souls up and infusing out into an unborn child and becoming tidying? Let me reread that. How do you feel about friends giving their souls up and infusing out into an unborn child and becoming a tidying? What do you think is possible? Well, no, you've got to get rid of the child soul in the first place. So that's tricky. Question, yeah. Like, if you're in a situation where you didn't have any sort of magic that could recreate your body, but it could re-summon your soul back to the mortal plane, and you'd have to find like a stillborn child, essentially. So the soul of the child has already passed on to the afterlife and has become an archon or something like that. And the body is revived without the unborn child's soul coming back to it, and the reincarnating person reincarnates back into that baby to begin with. So it's a baby with a full human. It's weird, Michael. I don't know. That's a thorny question. Tiefling. Becoming a tiefling. Infusing it out into an unborn child and becoming a tiefling. Yeah, it's the problem of that it's an inherently evil thing to do to a baby, right? Because the baby's got a soul as well. What about the soul goes into the body of an animal and infuses with the animal's soul, and the body is transformed into a humanoid sort of animal human hybrid type thing, like a furry. I don't know, a furry tiefling? Is that what we're getting at? Fiends into what? Fiends into tieflings. Oh man, I just don't understand. What the hell? Anyhow, do you feel about fiends giving their souls up and infusing out into an unborn child and becoming a tiefling? Do you think that's possible? Oh, like using... No. See, that's the thing. Demons may possibly be able to corrupt a living being's soul into a Cambion type situation, but devils are very restricted on what souls can and can't do. Like, souls are incredibly powerful potential energy. Like, it's a nuclear bomb in the form of a little ping of light. And so it's very, very valuable as an energy source. It's like the energon cubes of the outer planes, right? But once it's in a living body, it's impregnable. You can't get in there. You have to be invited in, and you can easily be ejected out, sort of thing. So no, they can't just take the soul out and put it somewhere uninvited, even for a baby. Words hard. Hey, welcome to Bronze Dragon, Palliser. Fiends, yeah. So yeah. Oh, this is from Lunified. Yeah, they make some good stuff. It's pretty, I don't know. It's overpriced, maybe. You can probably find some equally good designs. Cursed to be a furry, yeah. You can imagine like this demon lord infusing into a deer or something, becomes like a deer furry. It's like... Ugh. How many dragons do we have now? And is there enough for us to take over the world? Maybe. Yeah, that's true, Kickass Duke. The line between devils and demons seems to be very blurred on other things like animes and things like that. They hell's, you go to hell and it's full of demons, etc. Demons of hell. But in actual fact, in D&D would be like, no. The hells have got the devils and the abyss has got the demons. And they'd be like, what? And like some of the outer planes have got Yugoloths, daemons. I'm like, what? Praise Merkel. Does anybody else get the heebie-jeebies when you go to Germany and it's like ruled over by Chancellor Merkel? Does that mean that some enterprising necromancer could make a soul engine that powers a city on souls and uses the souls of the condemned criminals to fuel it? Yes, absolutely. Kangaroos infused with Baylors. Oh yeah, I remember that movie, Mr. L. The clown. I think it's called Clown. A demon skin makes a clown suit, and somebody puts on the clown suit, and they become like this. They become a killer. Jonathan, I have a Kinku who only repeats Buddhist philosophy. The open palm hurts just as much as the closed fist. Yeah, that's fine. Kinku can be hilariously entertaining. Really depends on how you want to play them. Is there a way to travel from Abia to Toril and back? Yeah, portals. Magical portals. Whenever you need that to exist in the game, portal. There are a lot of giants. Yeah, there's a lot of giants off-world as well. Good old giant-sized torso animated as a roving fortification. Abia is much the same as it has been until somebody basically updates it. So I haven't seen anybody writing stuff for Abia. It's like a lot of writers just sort of sweep it under the carpet. What do I think of bitonal singing? I think that the people in Tibet have been doing it for a very long time, and Mongolians have been doing it for a very long time. But there's various forms. I mean, it's another form of human expression. Baphomet, Lord of Furries. Hey, I think you missed some played comments. Did I? Let's go down here. Ah, Nathaniel. When can we look forward to a lore video on the greatest and most honourable of all D&D races, the Ixid Chittle? They're not the most... yeah, I haven't done a dedicated lore video on them because I'm kind of wrapping my head around how you would involve them in the campaign. Just something about role-playing with creatures with no hands is tricky. Like, even if it was like a pirate adventure and stuff... unless they actually were in the sea, how would the Ixid Chittle really affect them? Aside from being like evil masterminds and stuff. Perhaps the Ixid Chittle are like beavers who manipulate the tides to attack coastal cities. I don't know. I'll have to look into it further. Maybe that's something I can do this week. Okay, Sky, so you're an Anna Maria fan, I see. Maria Harrisford. I don't know. I guess I'll check her out. If I made an RPG world, how would you portray dragon? How would you stick to the clear... Would I stick with a clear alignment by colour? Would all dragons be so big and almighty? Yeah, I like the whole the conflict between the different types of dragons. I think it's a good system. It's evolved organically. Like dragons weren't that way in the early editions of D&D. It's sort of gone that way because of plot and story. And I really like the archetypes of the dragons as they are. Random question, do you watch Critical Role? No, I don't. I've got nothing against Critical Role, it's just I don't have time to sit for 4 hours and watch a RPG game. I'd rather run or play an RPG for that long. An industrial revolution fueled by the souls of the dead. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Is there a map of Abia? Yeah, there's several. They're a bit dated now, though, but there are maps of Abia. How would you go about making books from people's skulls? I wouldn't. I would make zombie skulls. Essentially, they would read the book over and over again, and then they'd be killed in a ritual that turned their head into a zombie that could only repeat what was in the book. So they basically become limited use elixir. Have them in a fishbowl. Exit Chittle in fishbowls. I like it. Can angels or other lawful good aligned creatures be forced to attack a good aligned party? Yeah, I mean, if they're at cross purposes and the angels see that the greater good is being compromised by the actions of a good intended party, then they may actually... they probably... Like, it doesn't have to be a deadly attack. It can be an attack to disable and talk to them and reason with them. Thanks, Michael. So... Did I miss out on anything the last month? I mysteriously lost my subscriber Gold Dragon membership. Also, enjoy your vacation. Not really, Michael. No. New Spelljammer plan? I don't know. Neither do I. I was actually looking at the various different types of like undead, and the hopping vampire is fairly popular in Asian folklore. And what was the other one? There's different types of undead which I don't think have been really covered verbatim by D&D. Venom trolls? Nope, don't think so. Is that a 3.5 thing? Like a poison themed troll? Hey Memo. I have a friend who recently got a bit tired of D&D. Have you had a friend like this, and do you have any tips on getting a person back into the game or re-upload? Billy, I will find that people who are starting to get burnt out on D&D or a little bit tired of D&D, they'll start to flip between different sessions, or their campaigns will be cut very short as they find something else that they want to do. Generally, the best thing for them to do is to go and play some other RPG campaign and recharge their D&D batteries. They end up missing it and going back to it, or they may just so they'll start trying out different game systems and things like that, but give them something completely different like Rogue Trader or Call of Cthulhu or something like that, and eventually they'll stretch their muscles and they'll get to like walk around in something else and then come back to it. Whoa, thanks Demon Inquisition. I don't think I've ever seen a deep red $100 thank you. I love the lore of the Death Giants in 3.5. They gave up everything to wield the powers of undeath against the dragons and still lost. Tragic but badass. And as always, thanks for everything you do, AJ. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking about the Death Giants of the Anarok Desert, for instance, or the Arcane Giants, and their custodianship of the lost ruins there, and their dire warnings for anyone who delves into the ruins of the Netheril. And also, like, the ruins of the Saruk and the sleeping Saruk and stuff who are left in pockets around the Forgotten Realms. So there's some deep, dark secrets that you can accidentally uncover in the Forgotten Realms, and Death Giants is definitely one of the ones which I'm quite looking forward to. Venom trolls are in Volos. Oh, like the trolls they're hurt with various things and they get infused with the yeah. I'm fully on board with that. I think there's huge amounts of potential for trolls. Flesh golems are made of uniform human bodies. Carrion golems are made of various dead animals stitched together like undead chimeras, sort of prototype flesh golems. Also, there's dragon flesh golems as well. Why are crystal dragons considered neutral chaos? They're always so nice. They're not always nice. They quite often don't want anything to do with people. They're isolationists. They're xenophobic and loners for the most part. No, I C.R. Smith. I mean, I love AJ Picker, but I'm not giving $100. I wouldn't expect anybody to. That blew my mind. That's the first for sure. That certainly helps out with the holiday fund. The king of donations, yeah, for sure. Ah. Yeah, the Jiangxi, the hopping that's right, William. Right on the money. If anyone gets tired of D&D, have them play a juicer in Rifts. Yeah. No, Psystalker, man. Psystalkers are cool. A mongrel man created by necromancy. Yeah, a little bit. One T-Rex arm. $1 million question and last one. So do you think this new D&D book is a PHB 2? Yes, Venom Trolls are 3.5. What new D&D book? Have they announced something? Have I missed something? I must have missed something. I'm sort of hyper-focused on the Rime of the Frost Maiden at the moment. Because I'm working on that with Taryn and a bunch of writers. I've basically been opted on as their law consultant and contributed a little bit. Like, remember my video on the flora of the far north? That's material which is going into the book as well. And I did some research on like dog sled teams and how fast they could actually travel. It's quite interesting, actually. Dog sled teams are quite. There's a lot of stuff which I didn't know. Is there a thing like an iron dragon? Yeah. There is an iron dragon. Elon Musk is secretly watching. Celestial Paragon series. I'm not saying that I'm not immune to being bribed, man. I'm I'm not above being donated into making a video for somebody for sure. Had an idea for a psychic sorcerer. He uses the magic jar spell to possess a mind flayer tadpole, then eats his own brain. Thoughts? That's a fantastic idea, Epic Thulu. A psychic sorcerer uses a magic jar spell to possess a mind flayer tadpole, then eats his own brain. Wow, what a concept. Far out. I can't see why that wouldn't work. That's a fantastic idea. Move over Pokimane, here's AJ. That's a fantastic idea. Demon Inquisition. Isn't that a person who's like doing an inquisition for demons? I am a man of flesh and blood. That's right. Is it true I'm actually a knowledge cleric? No, I'm a warlock, and Google is my packed patron. So I'm a warlock. I'm a Google warlock. Dire Hobbit Google warlock. What can change the nature of a man? Money. Money, women, power. Do we have stats for gnome zombies? I don't know. There's probably like goblin zombies or kobold zombies. You could use those. Any quick ideas for distinguishing a transitive plane of slimes between water, liquids, and earth solids from the slime realm of Dublex? Well, it's going to be acidic, isn't it? It's going to be quite noxious. Slimes don't need to breathe, generally. It's kind of anaerobic through chemical activity. They probably leave behind crystal deposits and things. They'd have islands of salts, maybe. It could be like an ocean of slimes with islands of salt, maybe. Yeah, that does sound like the bogeyman the Illithids are always afraid of. Yeah, that's my thoughts exactly. That is some Thune shit, Redrick. That's true. Yeah, Mind Flayers would want to nip that in the bud pretty quickly. Eating your own brain is pretty metal. That's true. That's hardcore. Like that's a different type of lich, isn't it? It's a horrific transformation involving self-sacrifice and a transition from living to dead. Because here's the thing: if you transferred your intelligence into that tadpole, would it leave your brain as a husk that you're eating? In which case, it wouldn't be exactly nourishing for the tadpole. Right, because they survive. They're not just eating the fats and tissue of the brain; they're also eating the memories and stuff of the mind itself. So it's a psychic nourishment as well as the other thing. So you make a duplicate of your mind and entrap it in the tadpole, and then the tadpole is eating you while you're alive, and knowing that you're dying, and a copy of your brain is taking it over. But you would still have that sense that you're being eaten alive by a tadpole. So at some point you'd be like, goodbye friends, and then I live. It's like, yeah, but you're not the same. You're not the same person anymore. The original you died. It's like the teleporter thing. It's like, yeah, I teleported a duplicate of me from one place to another. Like a duplicate me is created at that location, but the original me is actually ripped apart by a particle beam. So my soul's gone. All the members of Star Trek who've used a teleporter are soulless duplicates. Nobody ever talks about that. Schlock Mercenary, a very good comic book that's been going for a comic strip online, which has been going for a very long time, had basically a teleport war where there was all these duplicates of people that were created. Still too soon, Macho. Barocho. Have I ordered the D&D Barbie yet? No, I don't think I'm going to. Dire Hobbit Google Warlock should be on a shirt. I agree. Do I have a red dragon hatchling for a familiar? No, I've got an imp, unfortunately. A very quiet imp. Would it be an Elhoon? Yeah, no, it's not undead. Actually, my homebrew AJ Pickett is the legendary sage, a level 15 knowledge cleric wizard. He lives in a pocket dimension, only accessible if he invites you. Oh, yeah, C.R. Smith. I've talked about this before. One of my best ever gaming sessions was when essentially they went into a reality inversion where each walk down a hallway took them through a dimensional barrier into a parallel dimension where different versions of their player characters existed, and in some cases where old characters had not died. And so they ended up talking to themselves at the table, and people were just sitting there role playing as themselves, as their character talking to another version of their character. And I was just sitting back for a good 15 minutes, and everybody at the table was completely immersed and talking in character amongst themselves and to themselves. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. It could have gone off the rails really badly because they were blending and mixing up the different dimensions and stuff, but eventually they figured it out, smashed the crystal that was creating the reality crossovers, and all of them popped back into normal reality again. But yeah, that was probably one of the best RPG sessions that I've had. Isn't this AJ's Pocket Dimension? Yeah. Possess a tadpole and eat someone else's brain. Yeah. So it's a path to lichdom, right? So it's a path to immortality through transferring your mind into the illithid tadpole. Question is, what happens to the illithid tadpole's intelligence? Does it get popped out as well? It's the same thing with that whole, does an illithid have a soul? It's a living creature. Was there a standout inspiration part of the Great Dale book for you? Yeah, as I mentioned, I really wanted to learn more about the Shadow Masters of Thesk. Sorry, and I really, it's got me very enthused to learn more about Impultur and the Sea of Fallen Stars in general, and Aglarond, for instance, didn't get a lot of talk, and just the Rashimi, like the story of the Harpers and one of the Seven Sisters. One of the daughters of Mystara that ended up taking the leading role as the symbol in Rashomon. So it's really interesting, and the Harpers have gotten involved in that region. So Cormier's influence has extended east as well as it's extended west. So yeah, a standout inspiration there would be just like the Shadow Masters and their work, because they're kind of like a what should we call it? They're kind of like a shadowy operation operating in that region, much like in Anarok in the High Forest and those regions around to the west. You've got the Zentarum. So the Shadow Masters are like a religious order, and the Zentarum are like a something else, but they're kind of similar in a way. My impression of the imp. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, the greed dragon is my he's my totem, you could say. More hot glue. Schlock Mercenary just finished. Oh, did he? Did he retire finally? Well, it was a good run. Demon Inquisition. Dude, you're too generous. Might be able to make a Death Giant in 5e by throwing this new Warlock subclass into a current giant. Probably Cloud. Yeah. Stop donating, you already won. According to R.A. Salvatore, illithids do have a psyche. Okay. But is that the same as a soul? I think it would be. Toss a coin to your sage. True. Yeah, well, the Thunder Beasts of D&D are not dinosaurs per se. Like, they're not prehistoric animals. They're contemporary animals. So it's a different sort of thing. Symbol is the Queen of Aglarond and a lover of Elminster. Yeah, so I think those sisters are immortals because they're demigods, essentially. And one of them was the lover of Elminster, who also carries a spark of Mystara as well. And the symbol single-handedly, really, protects Rashomon from invasion. And Rashomon stands between the Endless Wastes and the Tweegan hordes, so essentially the Dothraki of the Endless Wastes, from stampeding into to the west into Faerun. So a lot of the interaction between Karatua, land-based, is stopped by the Plains of Purple Dust and the Endless Wastes, because it's just real hard going to get there. And of course, in order to go by the Great Sea, you have to travel all the way around the southern coast with Lurin and Drambrath and Halrua, and around Chult, which is kind of like tricky in and of itself because there's Tharby dragon turtles and stuff. So Lantan would be port of call, and Kalimshan would be port of call for the whole Shining Sea would be one place where they'd sort of make landfall and stuff. They could travel possibly through Murgom, and there is a river which essentially connects but over to the two, but tricky because you've got a big mountain range there as well, which is also beset by yak folk, and the yak folk control the mountain range to a certain extent, and of course there's lots of giants and dragons in that mountain range as well. That mountain range that separates Karatua from Faerun was also the origin point for the dwarves, where they came into the world not that long ago. Well, tens of thousands of years, but still. What would happen if you put a Mind Flayer tap hole into a demon? It wouldn't work. Demons don't have the same sort of biology that Mind Flayers would require. Transfer into the tadpole and it goes into your old brain and then they eat it. Yeah, essentially. If giants can contract lycanthropy, I'm toying with the idea of a tribe of stone giants who were infected by a werebat. Boom, giant werebats throwing boulders. Yeah. Yeah, they're immortal only in the sense that they're ageless, yeah. There needs to be a better definition of the word immortal. There needs to be like undying. No, that doesn't work either. Ageless as in you don't age, but you can die by being killed by something, and immortal meaning you could be splattered and you'd still reform from like a single cell. Who was it who drew up the map of Toril originally? Ed Greenwood. Ed Greenwood, the original creator of the Forgotten Realms, drew the original map of Forgotten Realms, and it was centered around Cormyr. Cormyr being the central land that all the other places were borderlands of. Like originally, Thay and all those sort of places were just names on the map. They were the exotic locations, and then slowly but surely people demanded details, and so it's just developed and developed and developed. It's one of the things that, like, people talk about canon D&D, like, oh, well, it's not published, so it doesn't account. Well, a lot of what we know of the lore of Dungeons & Dragons comes from authors who were basically said, look, you can write a story in the Chandlewood, write a novel about what goes on in Chandlewood and the people and stuff in that region. And that became the published lore. So it originally was third party that was just sort of folded into being the accepted lore for that region. So if there's no current information on Veldorn, for instance, and you write a really good source book on it in third party and sell it on, DrivethruRPG or the DM's Guild, then it becomes the canon because there's nothing else on it, So it fits, it becomes the puzzle piece that you slot into that region. And then anybody else who's doing, say, a source book on the Plains of Purple Dust or Mulhorand, who is aware of that Veldorn source book, would probably base a lot of stuff on that as well. So it builds and builds and builds and builds on itself, and it's a hodgepodge of different sources that become the canon of Forgotten Realms. Thanks, Melfazar. So when am I getting around to making a current state of Faerun video? Well, at the moment, on the Facebook groups, I've asked people to tell me, like, what are the third-party published books on the different regions. Like me reading The Great Dale, for instance, was me getting up to date on Narfell and Damara and Impultur and Thay and Aglarond and Rashomon and that eastern bit of the realms. We know pretty much what's going on in the current situation in the Sword Coast and Icewind Dale, and we have some idea of what's going on in the Sea of Fallen Stars because of events going on elsewhere. We've got some idea of what's going on in Chult and Lantern and places like that, and maybe a little bit on the Shire and the Eastern Shire and things because of what's going on in the Border Kingdoms. So I need to read up on the Border Kingdoms. So there's like boomf, boomf, boomf. There's bits. Well, I've got a map on the wall, by the way. We've got boomf, 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 and you can sort of start to fill in the gaps in between. Somebody else is writing a source book on the Villon Reach at the moment, so it's still in development. And once we get there, I'll be able to start talking more and more about what's going on. Extraterrestrial mind flayers? Yes, I think that's possible. They're about the right mass, and they have a brain. Immortal doesn't mean invincible. Yeah. Mummy dragon. Yep. There's actually an article on various types of undead dragon in Dragon Magazine, way back when. Quasi-immortal. Quasi-immortal. C.R. Smith. So let's say you're dating a lich. No. That's necrophilia. That's disgusting. Stop it. Thus are born the Darklings. So you're dating a lich. Ben Grimm. "5e needs a Zendikar book." Well, it needs a good source book on the Zentarum, what they're currently up to, and we need an up-to-date book on basically the central lands of like Arm and Turmish and Chondath and Tethyr and Jacinta. I'd really like to see stuff on that. Go to horny jail, yeah. Eldrith Veluthra. Oh, Eldrith Veluthra, yeah. So the Eldrith Veluthra are a faction of elves that are not popular amongst elves, but are... It's like, you know, I'm upset with Daddy, so I'm going to go and join the Eldrith Veluthra. Essentially, they're a faction of elves who are elf supremacists who want to get rid of humans on the continent of Faerun. A tall order, but what they're doing, and this is the thing with the thing with elves, they're looking to find a contagion which will infect humans and wipe them all out. A plague that will kill all humans on Faerun. And so obviously Talona and that sort of thing, and like undead powers and stuff that can create horrible, horrible diseases. If I was forced to, what type of dragon would I date? Song dragon. You predict that a tadpole's psyche switches into the sorcerer body and gets eaten. Why do people keep saying that? I predict the tadpole's psyche switches into the sorcerer's body and gets eaten by the... Oh, I see. Okay. So the tadpole's psyche swaps places with the sorcerer, and then the sorcerer eats the tadpole in the human brain. What about two liches dating each other? Okay, it's a purely platonic relationship. They've got no physical interest in each other whatsoever. So, one skeleton meets another skeleton. Okay, I'm calling it. It's been a great live stream, everyone. It's been fun. But we've devolved into horses made of dicks. So, yeah, no, that's it. We started talking about lich dating and it's just gone off the rails. So I'm gonna call the live stream here. Have a good week, everyone. I'll have a couple of videos coming out for you as soon as possible. And yeah, no live stream next weekend, but hopefully I'll be back for a midweek stream like this week's one. And I'll let you guys carry on your little conversation. Yeah, Comic Nut. Thank you very much, by the way. Thank you very much, everybody, for all the donations. Really stand out stream for that today. Thank you very much. And yeah, I'll catch you all very soon.